Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome. It's great that you can join. It's great to see all of you. Welcome to our study method webinar. It's not going to be a full hour. It's probably going to be from about 6 to 20 to 7, quarter to 7, maybe about 45 minutes. My name is Lizette de Villiers. I'll be your host, and I will shortly hand to Pieter de Villiers, the author and functional developer of the Shadowmatch system. A few administrative arrangements. You will notice that your microphone is currently in the forced mute setting. It will remain like that for the duration of our webinar. You are welcome to make use of the chat. Should you wish to post a question or just make a comment, please feel free to do so. We will not allow questions at the end of the webinar. We are, however, recording this. You would have seen that there's a recording going. The link will be available after the session today. Those of you that do have questions, you are welcome to make contact with the coach that has invited you to this session. If you have not been invited by a coach and you wish to speak to a coach, you're welcome to go and find one of our coaches. Pieter will show you where to find a coach towards the end of the session that he will be presenting. You are also welcome to send an email to us at Shadowmatch head office. Our email address is info@shadowmatch.com. I will also post our email address in the chat as soon as we start with the webinar. I think from my side, that's all. Enjoy the webinar, and thank you very much, Pieter. Over to you.
Thank you, Lizette, and welcome everybody. We have decided to run a program to introduce and help students, or everybody who is in the process of studying and writing an exam. This time of the year, we start looking at exam time. And what will the exams hold for us, and how do we get through it in the best possible way? Just a few comments on that as an introduction. Sometimes people do very well at their studies and at their exams, but they work extremely hard. I don't like that. I don't think it's a great idea. I want to do well with reasonably less work. So I want to use my time optimally, and I have studied for many years, and I have experience of some of my fellow students at high school and at university who they got very high marks, but they had no life. They had zero life. They had to study 10 hours a day, some of them even 12, 14 hours a day. In high school, I was not that hardworking, so I decided that 55, 52, 54, 55% for a subject's fine for me. And so I limited my time studying. I would rather play golf or tennis or do something else. But then we have a situation where you have to have certain marks to get allowance to university or to college, or sometimes at university you have to complete your degree with good marks to get access and to be allowed to carry on with further studies like an honors degree or a master's degree or whatever it might be. So there are also always these gates and thresholds that we must get through. The other part of the equation is sometimes students just struggle. Now, I want to start there with students just struggling. If you are in a high school, grade 8 onwards, from grade 10, 11, 12, the work becomes challenging, and you've got to use your time to the best of all possibilities to study in an effective and an efficient manner. So the purpose of our session is, and our study report and the coaching is, to help students to study optimally. Now, studying optimally means that to study as efficiently as possible. If I'm in a crisis and I have to write 2 or 3 exams in one day, and I can't get through all the scope of work, how do I deal with it? We'll get into that. Another point that I just want to emphasize to everybody that joined us is that we live in times where studying doesn't end. I lived I grew up with, if I can finish high school, I'm done with studies. I then found out that I have then started studying. When I finished university, after many years of studying, I have decided I'm done with studies to just find out, no. As life changes, people have to continuously learn new material, learn new content. They go into a new job. They've got to learn new functionalities. So the point that I want to share with you is, as the world changes, we have to keep on learning. I decided at an adult stage of my life to do a pilot's license, and I didn't realize I've got to write 8 exams. And it was like university exams. I looked at the books and I said to myself, how on earth now, what did I get myself into? And I did it. I actually enjoyed it, but it was as if I had to write matric again, or one of the years at university. So the point is that we must accept the fact that to study, to learn, and to acquire more knowledge about our world is not something that ends. And if you decide to end your learning path, then your career will end and you will stagnate and your life won't progress into the future. So the second point that I want to emphasize with everybody is that I grew up, and a lot of other students still grow up in the same scenario where my parents knew nothing about how to study, nothing, but they wanted to teach me. On earth, my parents knew about study methods, nothing. They never did any research. They said, just go sit ABC, apply bottom to chair, and work through the material 20 times, repeat it for yourself, write short notes, make a summary of your work, and go write the exam. It is the most horrible way of studying for me. But I had no access to a better way. Another thing that I realized later, much later, when I started to build Shadowmatch and work with the data, is that there's this idea that the study method that works for me will work for you as well. Hello, where did you get this? So they teach students a study method. What study method? This method. So when I started my first year at university, I said to myself, listen, Peter, you better get this method of studying to the best of the study method that there is. So I went to one of these courses that the university presents, and they taught me a method, and I tried it my first exam and I almost failed the exam. It didn't work at all for me. Much later, I realized that a study method is very unique to the individual. We can't follow the same study method. For the study method that works for one person doesn't necessarily, it probably won't work for the next person. The study method that I find best for me might never work for somebody else. It might work for people with the same habits as mine. So when we were in a very late stage of developing Shadowmatch, how we measure habits, I decided that I want to help students to get their optimal study method. And I found a number of study methods, many, and some of them were tested, they worked well, and I was very careful, and I selected a number of study methods, and I said, okay, I want to see which of these methods are best for what kind of combination of habits. And then I did a big job, and I matched the study methods and the results of students to their habits. And I realized that there's a pattern. Students with with some high habits on problem solving would like to see, for instance, the study material as a problem, and if they could solve the problem in the process they learn. So I started to combine this with other habits, and I started to test. I have quite new data now that was recently given to me of about 74 students, well, exactly 74 students, and they had a study method, their own study method, that they just learned by trial and error from parents and teachers and fellow students and whatever. And then they dedicated themselves to the recommended study method in shadow match. And on average, they improved their marks with 10 points. So those who got average 50% for their subjects got 60. Those who got on average 40% on their subjects got 50. Those who got 60 on average got 70. So on average, it's interesting if you look at the results, the ones that were on the low end of the marks, in their low 40s, they gained more points by using a better study method. So they could improve their marks by about 15 points. But the ones on the 75 and 80% side of the equation, they improved a little bit less, obviously because the scope of improvement is a little bit less on that side if you are in the high marks already. But some of them wanted to get an A for certain subjects to get themselves into university or into medical school or whatever it might be. And they could improve their marks with about 7 to 8%. But on the lower end, the improvement was much better. So we can bank on about an average of 10% improvement on your results. But now the third and the last point that I want to emphasize with everybody is, dear students and coaches and parents, everybody currently in our webinar, learning a study method is like learning to ride a bicycle or learning to do something that is an advanced skill. You don't learn it by attending a lecture. That's not how it works. And this is where we fail in learning. Well, that's one of the failure points in learning how to best apply our time and our energy for the best results when we prepare for an exam or when we have to study certain material. We think that we will acquire a better study method by listening to a lecture. It doesn't work that way. How you should see this is it's like training for a marathon. You've got to train your body. You've got to exercise every day over a period of time so that you become fit for the marathon. If you learn to ride a mountain bike on a very complicated and a very challenging mountain bike trail, you've got to practice this, and you've got to do it again and again and again. And if you practice this with somebody, it is the best. If you just try to do it all by yourself, don't expect too much. Our experience is just that if students see their study method and they don't have somebody who go with them on this, let's practice this, let's do this. How did it go? What was the result? What did you struggle with? Can we make a bit of an improvement here and there? If they just listen to a lecture of a study method or watch a video, they've actually wasted their time. They must start to practice this as a matter of repetition, and somebody must do it with them. So somebody who doesn't want them to follow a specific method that I like, so you are now, I'm going to help you. So I like this method now. I want to learn, I want to teach you my method. This someone must be very open to say, I want to teach you a method that works best for you. It doesn't matter if it works for me. It might not work for me, but I want to help you to practice and to become fit with a method that works best for you. And this is quite important. So there are 3 points that I would like you to remember. One, we want to use our time to study in the best way possible, because we will run out of time at a point and we must utilize our time the best we can. The second one is that a study method is not, it's not a general thing. It's not a one size fits all. It's unique to the individual. So every individual has got a unique study method that works best for them. Then the third point is it's something that you've got to practice. You've got to become fit with it. And it'll take you probably, and this is good news for some and bad news for some, it'll take you about 10 exams to get yourself fit with a specific study method. So don't expect, it's like running a marathon, dear students and coaches. If you go to a lecture on how to plan for a marathon and you go Saturday morning with new running shoes and a running shirt and short pants, and you run your first marathon, it might just not be your best experience. But if you prepare and you go through a process of becoming fit, make your brain fit for this best method, then your results will obviously be fantastic. So what I want to do now is I want to show you what the ShadowMatch study methods report look like. And I'm going to use my own one. So this is my study method report. I will share my screen and show you my report. And then I just want to share with you a few of the very important aspects that this report will take you through. So this is my study report. There you see at the top of the screen, Peter de Villiers. There's an introduction, something nice to read about studying. Should you study for long sessions or should you instead work in short, intense sprints? This is also a guideline that some students can work for very long sessions. It's best to work in short sprints and to take a break after 20 minutes. This is just a bit of general information. Is it best to study in a group or study alone? This is unique to the individual. Remember that some people prefer to be part of a group, some people not. So your study report, you will see that my preference there, I will highlight it on the screen. There says your preference is to study alone and work alone on academic assignments. And this is something that, for instance, in my personal experience, it frustrated me endlessly. We were put into groups and then we've got to study together, and I just could not do it. I couldn't do it. And the more I tell my teachers and my lecturers and even when I was at high school, my parents, I don't want to be in a group, the more they said to me, it works better. It doesn't. I don't like it. I don't want to work in a group. I want to, but luckily now the system is intelligent enough to say to me, Peter, your preference is to study alone and to work on academic assignments alone. So this is the first point. Is it better for me to be part of a study group, or is it better for me to study alone? In my instance, it's better to be alone. But in other people's lives, it might be better for them to study in a group. So we must allow one another our preferences. Now, there's a specific method, dear students and teachers, parents, coaches, everybody that's with us this afternoon, evening. There are some subjects, mathematics, calculus, statistics, science, bookkeeping type exams that depend for a specific part of the subject on our understanding of the material, but it's only for part of it. There's a a large portion of these exams that you have to study, and you have to study it like any other subject, like history or geography or whatever the subject, Afrikaans, English, whatever subject is. You have to get the information from, you've got to familiarize yourself with the information. In mathematics and calculus, stats, science, and bookkeeping, there are some basic things that you've got to remember. But for the understanding part of it, there's a part that I need to understand it. I need to get 2 + 2 together and understand that this is 4. Obviously, I can even learn that, but some part of these subjects are very dependent on our understanding of the material, but it's also a learning process. So now for these subjects, there are 2 legs to it. The one is, how do we prepare for the understanding part of the exam, and how do we prepare for the learning part of the exam? So for the understanding part of the exam, there's a video. So I'm not going to watch this video. It'll be in your Shadowmatch study method report. We will not watch this one. I want to move a little bit on to what about the learning, the material that I've got to learn. It might be part of mathematics, it might be part of calculus, stats, or science, or bookkeeping, or chemistry, or whatever it might be. These classic understand exams, the part that I have to learn, and all the other subjects. What the system does, it gives you 2 study methods. It says, have a look at these 2. So it decides what is your best and what is your second best study method. But the student can decide. And with your coach, the person that will walk with you and help you to become fit with your best study method, in collaboration with your coach. It might be a teacher, it might, well, a Shadowmatch coach obviously is the best because they are trained to do this, is to decide with them to say, I like this method more than this one. So just to have a little bit of, now, the method is explained in 2 ways. It says exactly the same. There's a paragraph that you can read, and you've got to watch the video. Now, I just want to share with you, my one study method is what we call big picture indexing. I'm going to show you the video. Have a look at the video. I'm going to put my sound on quite loud, and then we watch the video, and it's very short. Let's have a look. Let's take a minute or 2, watch this video. But remember now, this might not be the method that works for you. This is the method that works for me. Let's have a look.
Let me show you what study method will work for you. Create a headline index of your scope of work. This is how. Read carefully through the learning content and make sure that you have an index of headlines and subheadlines that represent all areas of the work. Remember, it must be topics only, no detail. If possible, do this 3 times. Then test your knowledge. Write your indexes down and check if you have all the facts covered. You must be able to remember all the main and subtopics of your learning content. You must do this self-test exercise also at least 3 times. Remember, in an exam, you don't get what you wish for. You get what you work for.
Good. So this is my study method. This is the one that works best for me. And if I do this, if I go through my work and I write down the headings and the subheadings, and I revise this 3 times, and I then test my knowledge 3 times, I can go write my exam. I'm ready for it. So this is the next thing that I want all the students and the teachers and the coaches to remember. If you do this, you're ready. You can go write your exam. If I go through my headlines 3 times and I test my knowledge 3 times by writing a sort of a self-test to see, okay, these are the main headings and these are the subheadings, and I've got them all. Oh, no, I missed one. There are 12 on this page on my reference page, and I only listed 11. I missed this one. Okay, I mustn't miss that one again. So if I do this 3 times, I can go write my exam. I'm ready for it. And obviously, dear students, coaches, and teachers and parents, it takes a bit of work. You've got to work. You've got to work. And that's why the video says you get what you don't get what you wish for. But here, this paragraph describes in a different way, from a different angle, what the video says. So the video is a summary of how this study method works. But then the system says, but Peter, there's an alternative. There is method number 2. And sometimes if you read through this, you might prefer method number 2. Remember, this is for me. Your study methods might be completely different to mine, and that is obviously your best method. Let's have a look at my second alternative video.
Engage your learning material with this question. What problem can I solve by knowing the things I'm about to study? What can I do with this knowledge? These are the steps you need to take. Step 1 is to determine what problems you can solve with this knowledge. Step 2, answer the problem-solving questions by reading carefully through your study material. Step 3, write your problem-solving questions and answers down. Step 4, ask yourself the problem questions and write the facts down to solve each problem. Then compare your answers with your notes. Repeat this last step 3 times. Remember, with an exam, the only way out is through. Do it.
Good, good. So now I have got through 2 study methods. So if I now sit with my coach and I say to my coach, my teacher, or my parents, I wonder which one will work best. The question to answer is, let's test them. Let's test. Let's see what is the best way to get ourselves fit for the next exam. Let's test. What is the subject that we will test for this? Let's take geography, or let's take human science, or whatever it might be. And we say, okay, I'm going to use this method and just do it. If the method says do it 3 times, then do it 3 times. That's it. Just do it. And then be very open to yourself and say, okay, let me see if I'm ready for the exam. You should be ready, and the method will work for you. But guys and girls, teachers and parents and coaches, this is unfortunately not where studying stops. There are a lot of other things that we need to know, and your coach, the person that will walk with you and train with you to get your brain fit for the optimal study method, will take a few other things into consideration. These are unique and very specific roadblocks that could frustrate your academic journey. The system now says, Peter, for you, there are some points that you've got to keep in mind. I just want to show you what it is. A wandering mind. I battle with this. How it works is I read a paragraph and then I have no idea what I've read. I have no cooking clue what I've read. I might read even a chapter, and if I reflect back and say to myself, what have I read? What happened is I was thinking about other things whilst reading. So I was busy with other things and my mind were traveling in different places, but I was actually reading an academic book that I have to prepare for an exam. And then when I've read 2 or 3 pages, I ask myself, Peter, so what have you read? Then I've got no idea. So this is what happens. It happens with people with specific habits. And we have identified those people and say, if you have these habits, you might struggle with as a result of a wandering mind. Then it says, there's the solution. You need to do 2 things. Peter, you need to do 2 things. The first is to take a break. And then you need to do 4 things. Sorry, you need to do 4 things. Lizette just showed me 4 things. The first is to take a break. Walk away from your books and at least 15 minutes. So now it says, Peter, remember, this can happen to you. This is the solution. This is what you must do. There are 4 things here that you need to do. You've got to work through this with your coach. You've got to work through this and understand it. And the moment you experience this wandering mind, do these things so that you can get back into the material that you are busy with. Fatigue. Study fatigue is a big challenge for many students. The brain becomes tired, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. The brain is like a muscle. It gets tired. It suffers fatigue. You can only let the brain work so long, then it's tired. And then you've got to do something to relax the brain so that it gets the chance to re-energize itself and then start working in an efficient manner again. So if you suffer fatigue, but now you've got to discuss this with your coach, and your coach need to ask a few questions. Do you feel this from time to time? Do you experience this fatigue from time to time? Let's have a look at your at the solution. Check your general health situation. Do you eat the correct food? Do you drink enough water? Do you sleep enough? Do you have enough rest? There are some checks and balances that we have to take into consideration. Frustration with the study content. This happens with me when I was at university, and even in high school. It frustrated me to the ends of the earth, because I said to myself, this rubbish that I have to learn, I don't want to learn it. So I got frustrated with the material that I had to study. What is the solution? There's the solution. It says, this is probably the best advice that you will ever get. Make fun of your work. Google some of the topics you are frustrated with and try to find something funny related to the learning content. So ask Google, what is this? What is this all about? Makes it a fun moment and say, I'm so irritated with this work. What can I do with it? Ask ChatGPT or ask Google or whatever one of these intelligent systems we have available. Ask the question and say, whenever in my life will I use this material or this learning content? And then put a bit of fun into it so that there's energy in the work that you have to study. The urge to be physically active. This is something that happened with me. It happened even recently, a few years, 10 years ago, when I did my pilot license exams. When I start studying, I feel like I've got to mow the lawn now. I hate mowing the lawn. I will never do it unless I have to study. Then I've got this urge to go and clean the swimming pool or mow the lawn or make coffee for my wife or do something. So, and when I was at high school, I would never go and walk the dogs unless I have to study. Then suddenly I want to go and walk the dog. So when you get this urge to become physically active, it tells you something. It says, the brain actually say to you, I want a break. That's why it gives you a sort of a restlessness to do something else and to do something different. The solution is do something physical and very active every 30 minutes. So allow your brain to regenerate its energy and get on with new energy. But you've got to discuss this with your coach or your mentor and say, I've got this urge to go and make coffee for the family or suddenly make breakfast for my parents. Something that I would never do, but the urge is there when I study. It's quite an important message that the brain sends to you to tell you, I'm fed up with this, I want to do something else. And if you don't allow that something else for the brain to happen, then it doesn't work properly anymore. And it says, then I don't. If you don't want to do something else, I'm not going to learn this material, and it stops. So rather play with the brain and allow the brain to tell you what frustrates it. So then overly self-reliant, you tend to have an overcommitment to work with no help from fellow students and lecturers. This was a problem that I have suffered my entire life. I didn't want to ask for help because I was overly reliant on my own abilities to get the work done. So it says, don't do this, because you might spend too much time with some of the material that somebody else could just given you a little bit of help with and get you through it. So don't be stupid. Then there are some tips. These are some of the tips. And here it's very good for your coach to ask a few questions. Do you ever feel anxious? Do you prepare to listen to music when you study? There are some research. Have a look at this. Do you have good light and proper light in the room where you study? These are all things that could influence your optimal study method. And then there's self-structured learning content. Sometimes the learning material is not properly structured, so it's the lecturers are lazy and they just give you a mess of work. So you've got to sort this a bit into structure and put it in a framework that makes sense to you. You can't just study a mess. And then rest and sleep. And then this is an important one to all the students. If you are in big trouble and you are in serious trouble, like I just didn't have the time to prepare for this exam, I had to write 3 subjects, the one 10 o'clock in the morning, the other one at 2 o'clock the afternoon if you are at university or college, and the other one 5 o'clock the same day. And for the 5 o'clock one, I just didn't have the time to prepare. I couldn't get through my scope of work. This is what we call an emergency exam preparation tip. What do I do if I am in serious trouble and I've got to give it a go? So read this, discuss it with your coach, remember it, keep it in mind, and say, whenever it happens in my academic career that I'm going to run out of time, or I might have forgotten about the exam date. I thought it's the 21st of August and it was the 11th of August, and now I am in huge trouble because I only have half a day to prepare, or even a few hours to prepare. And this will happen if you have a long study career in front of you. Don't worry, it will happen. It happened to me a few times. And then, guys and girls, these students and all the others, writing an exam is something that we must also learn how to do optimally. Sometimes we write an exam, and just as a result of the fact that we didn't write the exam paper properly, we lose a lot of marks and our results are not best. And these are exam tips. In other words, remember the person that reads your exam paper or reads the material, the assignment that you have done, or whatever it might be, is also just a person. They read as people. And if the reading material that they read frustrates them, obviously you cannot expect them to give you the best and the points, the marks that you deserve. So go through this with your coach, discuss it with your coach, think about it, plan for it, and get your mind around the best way of doing this. Then if you ever have to study online or distant learning or homeschooling, and you've got to work on your own, independent and individual, and sometimes people don't have the habits to do it, then these are the tips for those students who work independently and all by themselves. So this is quite important, because what will happen in future, we have friends and their kids now study from home, but the university is in London. So they are here in South Africa, in Pretoria. They do a degree in law, but the university is in London. So they are completely on distance learning. And sometimes the university might even be in the United States, and you'd have the time, you don't have the time benefit of the same timelines. They sleep when you are during the day, you've got daytime, or in Australia, or whatever it might be. So there are some tips for those students who have to work in a completely work from home and study from home situation. And then obviously a last word: studying is hard work. It's a process and not a moment. With that, I just want to show you something very quickly. If you don't have a coach, obviously I want you to go to the coach who referred you to this session about study method. But if you don't have a coach and you are just here on an open invitation that you saw somewhere, or somebody forwarded it to you, whatever it might be, or you stumbled across some of the videos that we have on the website, you can go to this website. There's the address at the top, shadowmatchcoaches.com. Lizette will post it in the chat. Shadowmatchcoaches.com. There's a list of coaches here, and they are in South Africa. There is Joni Maton, she's in Tennessee, Brentwood, Tennessee, in the United States. And we have other coaches, Renee and Malcolm, and there's a list of coaches that you can decide, I actually like this person, and I'm going to contact this individual for study method coaching, and they will be able, they are more than capable, and to go through a process with you and to help you with your study methods to get optimal success from spending your time to get through your exam and your scope of learning. With that, everybody, thank you very much for attending, and I hope you have a fantastic academic career in front of you. Remember, if you have any questions, please contact your coach, because in an open forum like this, it's not always clever to handle the questions online, and some have an interest and some do not have an interest. And if the video is available a little bit later, once we have the video will, then we refer, obviously, then the best way is to go to Shadow Match Coaches or to the coach who brought you, invited you to this session. And if you watch this video later on, just contact the coach and make sure that you have somebody that will walk with you and see to it that you learn this optimal study method by means of practicing it as a practice of repetition, so that your brain becomes fit, as our bodies must become fit for a long distance marathon or any other sporting event. With that, thank you very much, and all the best with your career. Lizette will have a final word to say goodbye to all. From my side, goodbye and good luck with your exams. Thank you, Lizette, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thanks for the insights. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it and everybody learned a lot. I just want to share my screen and show everybody, if you do not have a coach or you don't intend getting a coach immediately for whatever reason, and you would like to get your study report, you are welcome to go to this website, www.studyguideforme.com. And on this website, you will see it's a website all about the study report that Peter just shared with you. You can go and you can buy your study report. There's obviously a process. As soon as you click on buy my study report, if you have done the Shadow Match worksheet, the system will automatically draft and generate your study report, and you will receive the report via email. If you have not completed the Shadow Match worksheet, that will obviously be the first step. Why? Because we need to get to know you in order to generate the study report. Because a last word from my side, remember that the study report is unique to each individual. So what you've seen on Peter's study report is specifically for Peter with regards to his habits or his behavioral patterns. So your study report will be unique, and the system uses your natural behavior patterns, we refer to it as habits, to then craft your study report with your unique study methods. A coach can help you to work through that report. Peter showed you the website, shadowmatchcoaches.com. And for those of you that want to purchase your study report, studyguideforme.com. I will once again just post that in the chat so that you've also got record of that. So give me a moment, studyguideforme.com. I think with that from my side as well, thank you very much for joining. The recording will be available. We'll make it available to everybody who attended, as well as all the coaches. And we will probably also make it available on our YouTube channel. So those of you that don't have a connection with a coach, you're welcome to go to our YouTube channel, and you can then find the recording there. Let me just, as a last round, quickly check the chat if there are any questions that will pertain to everybody else. The study, the worksheet, there's a question about the worksheet. The worksheet is the same for everyone, and any child that can read an English newspaper, we normally say from the age of 11, 12, can do the Shadow Match worksheet. It's a standard worksheet for everybody. So there's not a different worksheet for younger kids and a separate worksheet for older children or for adults. It's the same worksheet. And we have results of 11 and 12-year-olds that are 100% stable on the Shadow Match system. So I hope that answers the question. Yes, thank you. I see there's a thank you, Lizette. Let's see, whilst we have a moment, are there any other questions that anybody wants to post in the chat? I'll give one moment. It doesn't look like it. So from our side, dear participants, thank you so much for joining. We wish you all the best with your studies. We wish all the coaches the best with working with these students and helping them achieve optimal success. Have a great evening, everyone, and go well. Bye-bye.